Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Digging Deeper moment number 154. The mission of our Digging Deeper moments is to take God's Word to God's world, and we are so glad that you've joined us, and we hope that before watching this lesson, you'll subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will help us to spread messages like this to others. Now, we've been looking at the 7 words, or the 7 Hebrew words that make up Genesis 1:1. So far, we've looked at the first 3. The first is Bereshit, the second is bara, and the third is Elohim. Bereshit means in the beginning. Bara means to create, and we looked at that closely last week. And we also looked at the word Elohim, which means God. It's the majestic plural, which means the God of the Bible. The next word we come to in the first sentence of the Bible is the word eight. I don't mean eight, A-T-E, it's actually eight. And the word eight in Hebrew marks what is called the direct object. The direct object in a sentence is the recipient of the action of the verb. So in Genesis 1:1, the verb is bara, created. In the beginning, God created. The word eight points to what was created. So the word eight is a pointer, pointing to what God created in Genesis 1:1. And what is et? Or it's actually et, what we would spell et, but it's pronounced eight. But what is et pointing to? Et, go home. No, that's not what he's saying. It means he's pointing to the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the word heavens is the Hebrew word shamayim, but it's prefixed on the front of it. This is where our language is so much different and has the prefix for the word the. So it's Hashemayim, meaning the heavens and the earth. So the word Shemayim has 2 basic ideas. It has the idea of the sky, so God created the sky, and it also has the idea and can be defined as the heavens as the abode of God. Now we have to look at the context to determine which of those views are meant. Nothing in creation speaks in this chapter to the creation of heavenly beings. Any suggestion of this is actually mud on people's feet. They're bringing these ideas with them into the text. Simply Moses is saying that God created the heavens. And the reason the heavens are in the plural is that it's the majestic plural, and really no one denies that the heavens are awesome. So it makes sense that he would use the plural. Now there are commentaries that suggest that the Hebrews thought of the word heavens or sky as a metallic vault. In other words, that it was solid. This is actually not the case. This is not true of what they would have believed at the time of Moses. This is actually an idea that was later added by the Greek influence on society. And so that idea of a solid heavens actually comes later in time, sometime in the early Greek age, somewhere between 400 and the time of 400 BC and the time of Christ. And for a good explanation of this, you can Google Dr. Danny Faulkner, who does a really good job explaining the history of that thought. The Theological Word Book of the Old Testament states, thus, a disobedient Israel would find the heavens to be like iron or like bronze. That's found in Deuteronomy 28:23 and Leviticus 26:19, meaning that it would not yield much rain. Now they go on to say, note that if the heavens were conceived of as a metallic vault, as is commonly suggested from Genesis 1:8 and 14, the above passage would be meaningless, since the skies would already be metal. And so it's not true to say that the heavens were a solid vault. This is an idea that was added later. What the Hebrew is saying is that God created the sky. We call them the heavens. We even use the plural because they're so majestic, they're so huge, they're so awesome. And so it's not talking about the creation of the heavens as God's abode. It's talking about the creation of the sky. Following the word Hashemayim is the word wa'et. The wa is the word for and the 8 is again the marker of direct object. It's pointing. So this means that God created the heavens, 8 Hashemayim, and what follows, haaretz. Now this is a compound word. It has the on the front of it, and so it's the, and the word aretz means land. So the aretz means land or earth as opposed to the sky. And as specifically this word aretz can mean like the land of Israel. The context here seems to point to the fact he's talking about the earth, the whole earth. Now heaven and earth used together signify the entire universe. Again, I quote, this is coming from the Theological Workbook of the Old Testament. And I agree with that statement. This is a way of saying, in the beginning, the first thing God created, And we saw that in first verse, it's a perfect stative verb, meaning it's not a process, it's an act. So the first thing God created, the sky and the land. So he wasn't creating the heavens where God dwelt. He was creating the physical heavens and earth. So this is talking about our universe. Now I've heard many say that verse 1 is saying that this is speaking of the earth being created in the sense of a round ball. But this isn't entirely accurate as well, because it's kind of like bringing mud in on our feet. We don't know at this point how Israel in 1500 BC or 1450 BC, when Moses wrote this, we don't know for sure how they viewed the earth in the sense of whether they saw it as a circular disc or a round ball or not. There's people talk about this stuff, but we're not really that sure. What we do know is that the Genesis account of creation is being written what they call phenomenal. I'm not even going to get this word right. It's a long word. Phenomenologically. What that means is that we're looking from human experience. The idea of the way the first chapter of Genesis is written is of a person standing on the earth, seeing the land, and seeing the sky, and God is writing it from that perspective. He is not writing it from His perspective. He's writing it from our perspective as we look out at what we see. So when a person stands on the ground, he can see the land and he can see the sky. This is the basic division of the natural world according to the way we observe it. Now we are back to science, because real science is about learning about things from observation. And here in Genesis 1:1, God explains from our perspective what we can observe. He explains that He created all that we see, the land and the sky. And that would have been the simplest division of the way the world looks to the Israelites back in 1450 BC. And it's still, even though we have telescopes and we have computers and satellites and things, and we can see it from a different perspective, the still basic way that we look at the earth is we look at the land and we look at the sky. And what Genesis 1:1 is telling us is, in the beginning, the very first thing God created, He created the heavens, the sky, and He created the land that we live on. It's really that simple. That's what He's saying. And God didn't do it in a process. The process is going to be seen in the verses that follow. If this lesson helped you, please share it with a friend, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or check out our Sunday morning live podcast on either Apple or Spotify. If you'd like to partner with us as we take God's Word to God's world, you can do so by going to our website and clicking the How to Give tab. Next week, we will begin a new series on Genesis chapter 1, verse 2, and I hope to see you there next week. God bless.